October. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Smythe, could we have the sunshine statement and roll call, please?
Sure, this is the Wall Township Board of Education meeting for which adequate notice under the Open Public Meeting Act was provided by notice to the CoStar, Asbury Park Press, Township Clerk's Office, all Wall Township Public Schools, and the Board Administration Office on October 13th, 2022. I'll take a roll call. Mr. Buffer.
Here.
Mr. Hall. Here. Ms. Hodnick.
Here.
Mr. Maliff.
Here.
Mr. Nasser.
He's excused.
Mr. Sanfilippo.
Here.
Ms. Stites.
Here.
Mr. Wondrak. Here. Mr. Adnezia.
Here. Okay, at this time, could I have a motion to go into executive session for letters A, D, G, and H on the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Second, Mr. Wondrak. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. Okay, we'll be back at approximately 7:30 p.m. Good evening. At this time, we would like to reconvene our regular business meeting of Tuesday, October 18th, 2022. Mr. Smythe, could we have roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Buffa?
Here.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Mr. Hodnett?
Here.
Mr. Malik?
Here.
Mr. Nasser?
He is excused.
Mr. Samplippo?
Here.
Ms. Stites?
Here.
Mr. Wondrak? Madison Brody?
Here.
Lauren Gill?
Here.
Mr. Ednizio?
Here. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to go to our student rep reports because there's a Powder Puff game this evening I'm sure you guys want to get to. Good evening.
Very excited to be here. Madison and I and our fellow reps, Bryn, Allie, and Chris, all feel the same sentiment, although they can't be here because they are joining our amazing Power Puff. To begin, we kicked off Pep Week with a bang, and we're building up to our Pep Rally. Lots of school spirit and participation going around. Everyone was particularly involved and excited about Pajama Day today. The lovely young women of Powder Puff are practicing hard and have been very excited for tonight. Both teams are definitely in it to win it. So are the very charismatic young men who we've never seen so excited to be a cheerleader. Good luck to Allie and Bryn, who couldn't make it, and Chris. Hallway decorating is underway, and the students are very excited to knock this year's Disney theme out of the park. We're all waiting for the pep rally, which is pumping out lots of school spirit and a wonderful amount of involvement on the students' end. And it's truly great to see the students being brought together while showing genuine interest in participating and being involved.
Student life is going decently smoothly. Although we're not perfect, we have refocused this year to teach students the importance of acceptance, kindness, compassion, and friendship. On the morning show this week, we have tried our best to push the meaning of kindness itself and its importance, and what better place to do it than our own morning show. In fact, teachers have even been giving students kindness challenges, whether it's to compliment one person today or help someone finish their work, pushing us even closer to the positive school narrative we have all been waiting for.
Red Ribbon Week is next week, which is a week dedicated to raising awareness for substance and alcohol abuse and how to prevent it. The high school's Red Ribbon Week is ran by Miss Regne and the hardworking student members of Delta. They have tons of activities prepared. Monday, the students will be given opportunities to participate in presentations given by the Wall Police. And Delta members will be making their way to the middle school on Tuesday to help inform our middle schoolers on the importance of substance abuse prevention. On Wednesday, students will wear red to show their support for those struggling with substance abuse and listen to speakers who have overcame substance abuse themselves and turned their lives around on their own accord.
In sports news, the Wall High School Crimson Knights have been producing great records. To start, the football team fights until the very last second of every game. Boys soccer are 8-5-1. Girls soccer are 6-6, with the game going on right now against the Colts Neck. Field hockey is 10-2. Girls tennis worked so hard this season, and girls volleyball is 13-4 with their quarterfinal round against Donovan Catholic right now. And gymnastics also worked hard this season. Congratulations to all the senior athletes as their seasons are coming to an end.
And that's what we got. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much. Now you can go and get out to the game. Enjoy.
Go Knights. Fly, be free.
And we also have some other students here, so I am going to jump ahead to the superintendent. Dr. Handerhan, good evening.
Hi, everyone. Oh, okay, let's try it again. Okay, good. Okay, good evening and thank you to the Wall High School Color Guard and our student representatives to the Board of Education, Madison Brody and Lauren Gill. They did a dynamite job this evening, so I hope you can still hear me in the hallway, Madison and Lauren. Okay, this evening, I have a really special superintendent's report, and I'd like to start off that I am thrilled to announce that one of our Wall High School students, Ms. Lauren Damiano, was recognized as a commended scholar by the National Merit Scholarship Corporation. Participating in the PSAT as a junior is the qualifying instrument used to determine this award. The National Merit Organization states that those being named commended students have demonstrated outstanding potential for academic success. These students represent a valuable national resource, and the organization encourages them to continue their pursuit of academic excellence. It is my pleasure to introduce to all of you this evening Lauren Damiano as a commended scholar. Lauren, come on up. This evening, I am also privileged to recognize two students for a rather unique reason. Last month, two Wall High School students demonstrated exceptional, and I'm not exaggerating, exceptional citizenry. Unfortunately, I am precluded from elaborating with detail, but what I can say is that these two students are upstanders, and because of their swift actions, cool thinking, someone is now safe. And I mean that in the most literal of sense. On behalf of the entire school district, we thank you and we are beyond proud of you. Would senior Michael Ballas and junior Marco DeVita please come forward? Each year, New Jersey school districts must report to the Student Safety Data System, or the SSDS. The system collects incidents of violence, vandalism, weapons, substance abuse, harassment, intimidation, and bullying. It also collects HIB training information and programs conducted to support anti-bullying efforts. The complete reporting for the 2021-2022 school year with specific breakdowns is included in tonight's agenda as attachment F under the superintendent's report. The number of confirmed incidents at the high school is 22. Intermediate school, 33. Allenwood, 0. Central School, 3. Old Mill, 0. West Belmar, 0, and primary school, 0. Additionally, a requirement under the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act is for each school to conduct a school self-assessment for determining grades. Each school's school safety, school climate team is required to complete the self-assessment and enter the school's ratings into the New Jersey Department of Education's online system. I wish to add and stress that this self-assessment does not speak to the number of bullying incidents, but rather the compliance and established administrative protocols related to harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Each school's self-assessment for the 2021-2022 school year is provided as Attachment E under the Superintendent's Report. Wall High School, 74. Wyss, 77. Allenwood, 76. Central, 77. Old Mill, 76. West Belmar, 76. And Primary, 78. 78 is the total value of points. There are many exciting things going on throughout the district. As Madison earlier indicated and Lauren punctuated, it has been Spirit Week at the high school. Lots of activities have been planned throughout the week, and as they mentioned, the Powder Puff game taking place at this very moment. I just want to put out a reminder that this Friday is homecoming, so just remember the community is all welcome for a really special homecoming. Last week was Week of Respect. Some great activities throughout the district included inspirational sidewalk chalk messages at the high school. At Wall Intermediate, grade level teams focused on themes of respect and including them in the daily classroom lessons. At primary school, Wall Municipal and emergency personnel visited the children and the staff, and they shared in the Week of Respect activities. So that was a really nice combined effort. At Allenwood, students made a giant respect mural. At Central School, Lead You, an organization that specializes in supporting character development in children, topped off the Week of Respect at Central with activities that emphasize kindness, respect for others, and about being an upstander. And I know that we had 2 upstanders in the house tonight, so I take pause with that. At Old Mill, students and staff were encouraged to wear mismatched clothing to appreciate the difference of others. And at West Belmar School, students and staff wore their favorite team jerseys to show that West Belmar is one big team and that they work together as one big team. I'm also very happy to announce that the Special Services Department is hosting an information evening discussing planning for life after graduation, guidance for families. This event will take place in the Wall Intermediate School cafeteria this Thursday, October 20th at 6 p.m. It was moved to the intermediate school. I just want to stress intermediate school because, of course, it's Spirit Week and we will have hallway decorating. So take note that it is at the intermediate school. And Mr. Ryan Bradley, he's our transition coordinator throughout the district, and he will discuss topics including guardianship, Social Security, Medicaid, and support services for students after graduation. I just want to stress that that is not something, please don't think that that is just relevant to the high school population. Please, I invite elementary age, primary school age, because the information is, it's so important. And one thing that I can tell you with working with high school families for many years is this information cannot come any sooner. So please do not wait until high school. Please see if you can come join us on Thursday night. I would also like to put out a reminder that the Governor Educator of the Year nomination forms are now available on the district website and have been emailed to families. The deadline to nominate that special educator is October 27th. As you know, the district has advertised for an acting principal for Wall High School. While I have enjoyed my time serving in the acting role, it is unfortunately not sustainable given the fact that I'm serving also as the superintendent of schools. So on tonight's agenda, we have the candidate for the acting Wall High School principalship. Dr. Peter Riggi is a very experienced high school administrator. Prior to his retirement, he has served as superintendent, high school principal, assistant principal, athletic director, and high school English teacher. I would like to note that I have worked with Dr. Riggi for several years in both the Rumson-Fairhaven Regional High School District and Manchester Township High School. Dr. Riggi and I have collaborated on many, 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 and I probably could throw a couple more in there, educational endeavors throughout our years together. I have been witness to his endless dedication to the students in his care and to his commitment in building capacity among his staff. I have also benefited personally from his mentorship and encouragement throughout the years. In fact, he encouraged me to make the leap, to take that leap from principal to superintendent, and well, here I am, and I guess the rest is history. But I am very excited for the opportunity to work with Dr. Riggi again, and I am also very, very excited for the students and staff of Wall High School. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Peter Riggi.
Still excited about the job. So thank you again, and thank the board for having faith in me. So again, reach out to me. I am very, very receptive to feedback. Okay? Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Dr. Riggi was certainly his experience stood out in the application, throughout the application process. We had 15 applicants, and 3 really had really met the criteria for some high school experience. But Dr. Riggi's experience, it really stood out. And there is the added bonus, of course, that we worked together for years and years. So I have first-hand witness, like I mentioned, to all the wonderful things that he has done with schools that he has led. So I welcome him, and I look forward to our journey together. And also, I just want to say how excited I am that he's here, excited for the students and for the staff. Okay, Mr. Anisio.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Handerhan. We'll just jump backwards for a second. So I'd like to recognize the students of the month. Grade 9, Lauren Tremblay. Grade 10, Erin Ritchie. Grade 11, Nathaniel Atari. And 12, Cassandra Berry. And then the Knights of the Week for grade 11 was Christopher Daly. Grade 9, Sophia Coping. Grade 11, Carter Cotrella. I'm saying that wrong. I apologize. Cotrella, correct? Colatrella, thank you. And grade 10, Calum Wapser. So congratulations to all those students. And we will forge ahead now. Dr. Handerhan will be doing a presentation for us on the referendum.
Those of you that are regulars, you know that I'm a frustrated lounge lizard, so I'm going to walk around. Okay, as many of you are aware, and hopefully all will be aware very shortly, we are engaging in the referendum process. I'd like to start by really detailing, providing you some fundamental details regarding the process. And I'd like to begin with a question. And the question is this: how are school districts able to fund capital projects? All right? They're able to fund capital projects in two ways: through the annual school budget and also through a bond referendum. I'd like to add that there are limits to what and how many capital projects an annual school board budget can support. All right, there's a finite amount of money. For example, in this year's budget, in this year's school budget, we have $2 million that was funded from capital reserves that were allocated for capital improvements. So as you can see, there's a finite amount of money, $2 million. Another question that I'd like to discuss is, are there any disadvantages to funding most capital projects in the annual budget process? The answer is an emphatic yes. There is a big disadvantage. When you fund capital projects through the annual school budget, you do not receive state aid. So the big disadvantage is you don't get state aid. Capital projects funded through a bond referendum are eligible for up to 34% state aid. That is roughly 30%. And I like to give very concrete examples. What does that actually mean in terms of money? Those of you that have gone to budget presentations, those of you that work in the high school, you knew that this summer air conditioning was installed in the South Gym at Wall High School. That project was funded through the annual budget. So we budgeted for that project, and it was funded entirely through the school budget. And after everything was said and done, the total cost for the project was $621,000. If this HVAC project in the South Gym at Wall High School was funded through a bond referendum, the state aid estimate would have been $211,140. That is the state aid figure. Therefore, the project would have cost Wall Township taxpayers $409,860. I repeat, all right, I'm trying to emphasize this, that on a project that cost $621,000, the state pays $211,140, and the district is left with $409,860 as its bill. All right, so I'm talking about a referendum. I'm talking about how great it is because we can get state aid. But what is it really? What is a bond referendum? A referendum is simply a vote. That's it. And a bond referendum asks voters specifically to approve funding through the sale of bonds. These bonds can provide the school district with the upfront funding needed to make long-lasting improvements and investments in infrastructure. I liken it to taking a home equity loan to renovate a kitchen, all right? Property taxes are used to buy back those bonds with interest. It is really important to know that school districts, via a referendum, require voter approval to sell bonds to raise funds for capital improvements. So remember, school districts can fund capital improvements two ways. They can fund through the annual school budget or through a bond referendum. The bond referendum, I'd like to stress that in order to get the funding, we need to get voter approval to sell these bonds. School districts are unique that we need to go to the voters. This borrowing the money for capital improvements is taken to the voter. That is not the case in other government organizations such as municipalities and such. So school districts are unique where we need to ask the taxpayer, we need to ask the voters. With that in mind, the Board of Education approved holding a referendum on December 13th, 2022. The referendum philosophy is that the Board of Education has used in our planning is very simple. There are two questions. One question, question one, and this, I refer to question one as question one funds the projects that keeps our school community warm and dry. I like to refer to it as the warm and dry, question one. They are needed projects that will result in no increase in debt service taxes. All right, notice I underlined and highlighted no increase. Question one, no increase. Question two is also, we're asking to fund needed projects that will result in some increase to debt service taxes. You might be thinking to yourself, how can question one be accomplished without an increase in taxes? All right. Well, Wall Township Public Schools has debt coming off of the books from the last referendum. All right, so the referendum is it's very shortly going to be paid off. So we're looking at that as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to reinvest in our schools. So question one asks the voters to approve $53,078,733. The state contribution, again, the state's contribution is $18,046,792. Question one is what is referred to as tax neutral. There is no tax increase. So you look at that, and I referenced that state aid can be up to 34%. Over $18 million is a really hard number to walk away from when you're working with capital improvements, with capital projects. Knowing that we had debt coming off the books, quite frankly, we wouldn't be doing our jobs if we did not introduce a referendum to the community, because it's an opportunity to capture over $18 million that would otherwise be used by other communities. We've already paid into the state pot for the over $18 million. We need to recognize that $18 million is available to fund our projects. How much will question number two cost? Well, question number two asks for $13,520,475. The state contribution for projects in question number two is $2,009,806. Now, what is that in real money? All right, I'm talking about question one, I'm talking about question two. What does that look like in real money? Question number one has no impact, no increase, because it replaces the debt coming off of the books from the last successful referendum. Question number two, what does that look like? What kind of impact? Well, the impact on the average assessed home, the estimated average assessed home value is $483,357. The tax impact would be approximately $60 per year or $5 per month. You might be wondering what types of projects are planned. And I referenced that in question 1. I think of that as the keeping everyone warm and dry. So let's look at this school by school. Allenwood. As you can see, Allenwood was built in approximately 1897. There, of course, through the years have been subsequent additions. The building is used for kindergarten through 5th grade. The projects include replace roofing, replace or improve HVAC system, modernize restrooms, upgrade fire alarm, improve ADA accessibility, add new parking area, and install LED parking lot light. Central School, replace roofing, replace or improve the HVAC system, modernize restrooms, upgrade electrical systems, or upgrade fire alarm. And Central was built in 1949 with subsequent additions. West Belmar Elementary School dates back to 1890, and of course there were later renovations and an addition in 1999. We're looking to replace the roof, improve HVAC systems, modernize the restrooms, upgrade the fire alarm, upgrade mechanicals, upgrade the electrical system, and replace the asphalt. At Old Mill, we're looking to replace roofing, replace lower level classroom HVAC, replace and improve the HVAC system, and modernize restrooms. Now, Old Mill is it's the youngest of our schools, and it just celebrated its 50th last year. Primary school, we're trying to date it, but it looks like the information that we received is around 1970. And those of you that have been in Wall Township for a long time, primary school was once a different building. I believe it was the post office at one time. And the goal is to modernize restrooms and replace low efficiency windows at primary school. Intermediate school, built in 1967. We're looking to replace roofing, upgrade the electrical system, replace and improve HVAC systems, replace low efficiency windows, renovate classrooms, renovate art room and technology lab, and renovate the boys and girls locker rooms. At the high school, we're looking to replace roofing. We're looking to replace and improve the HVAC systems. We're looking to modernize restrooms, upgrade electrical systems, renovate the auditorium, renovate graphics and digital arts area, renovate an art room, and enhance the athletic facilities. Wall High School was constructed in 1959. It is imperative, I just want to stress that it's imperative that voters are informed. And for accurate information, please visit the referendum tab on the district's website. If you're unfamiliar with the new website, it's wallpublicschools.org. And I thank you for your time. There are so many of us that are willing certainly to address any questions that you may have. On the referendum tab on the website, we will be providing updates and information, and a lot more will be shared with you as the weeks march on. So with that, I'm going to return back to the meeting and return my Lounge Lizard microphone.
Thank you, Dr. Handerhan. Okay. Yeah. Okay. On November 1st. Yeah. Okay. So on November 1st, we are going to do a larger presentation. We are going to have our professionals here, architect, bond, counsel, engineer, I think that's everybody, correct? Correct. Yeah, so they're going to be here to do a full presentation, probably go a little deeper into the weeds with some of the stuff that was talked about tonight. Point of just information, Wall Primary School actually was originally the Wall Municipal Building many years ago before they built the complex. So that building has been around for quite a while, and it was actually post office at one time as well in there. So with that, we'll open up for any public comment on this presentation. Please come up and just state your name for the record. And if you don't have anything tonight, we will have, again, on November 1st, and then also our regular business meeting in November as well.
Betsy Cross, I live in Wall Township. Yeah, I did have a couple questions. How long are you estimating the new roofs are going to last compared to the old roofs? Are they 10-year, 20-year, 30-year, 50-year? All right, you're going to get back to me on that tonight? I'm sure you've already...
No, if you have a couple questions, and then we can address it.
Okay. Because I know we spent, I don't have the number on the top of my head, and I don't want to say it, but I know we bought new roofs about 10 years ago. So I'd like to know what the warranty was on those roofs before we're shoving God knows how much money in for these roofs. So I'd like the number tonight of what you're budgeting for the roof at Old Mill. I'd like the separate price, the roof at West Belmar, and the roof at Wall Intermediate, and the roof at Wall High School. So those numbers I'm sure you have because they're in your presentation. I would like to mention, I was listening in the car, we were talking about the air conditioning that we spent at the high school. And I've gone over this before. That was a job that was done by Rampart Construction right before Habel retired. And it was an amount that it was put into the lease agreement with the Central School trailers. We ended up buying a gym floor with mercury in it, and now we have to spend $409 if we had a referendum on air conditioning. But no, we got stuck paying $629,000 because the same architect for the trailers, we paid $17,500 for their professional advice on a gym floor.
Ms. Cross, this is questions about this presentation.
She went over this for her presentation.
There was nothing about gym floors or trailers.
Sure it was. She went over that if we would have spent $409 on that gym floor rather than $621. No, we would have spent zero. You know why? Because you would have went back to the architect and sued them. So no, that $409 would have been zero.
Please direct your comments to the presentation from today.
Right.
Thank you.
We don't have handouts, which is ludicrous. We got to take pictures of screenshots. What time did you post that you were even doing a referendum presentation? Because it wasn't up there yesterday, and it wasn't up there today when I looked at it this morning.
Do you have questions about this presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
What time did you post that you were doing a referendum presentation?
That's not a question about what was just shown.
$71,000 for the 53 plus the 18 plus another 15 for question 2. It is a big no for me. I haven't spoken to one person that's approving this referendum under Brian Smythe.
Any
Not
comments
one.
about the presentation, please?
Yes. When you're going out for a referendum, you can't do it 6 weeks before and shove it up on an agenda. I don't even know what time. Maybe 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
Ms. Cross, last time, do you have any questions about this presentation?
What else do I have? I'd like exact breakouts for each school of what you think you're going to be spending. I'd like to know the interest rate we're getting that you're saying we're getting, and how long is the term for the bond. 10 years, 20 years, and what is the interest rate? All of that needs to be given to us tonight because the vote is, 6 weeks away? I've asked Mr. Nasser, how much is it costing to have the vote on December 13th? He never got back to me. How much did it cost to fill out the application? Because it was $40,000 the last time we applied for it. So I'm going to guess it's up more than 40. And I know Cherry Hill referendum
Cross,
was
that's not part of this
130,000.
presentation.
It is.
It's
How
not.
much
That was not up
part
there.
of the
That was
referendum
not up there.
is the cost for the referendum application and to have it on December 13th
That's
rather
not, that
than
wasn't up on the board, Ms.
in
Cross.
November? Those are
do you have any
answers
questions?
I would like answered tonight, and everybody watching would also like those same answers.
Please don't speak for everybody, just your own comments. Thank you.
We don't need you speaking at all, Athena. You let us
All
do
right,
the
Ms.
talking.
Cross, please. Thank you.
Mr. Adnisio, I would like
Yes.
to address some of the questions. One of the questions with respect to the air conditioning project that I used as an illustration to demonstrate, what state aid could do for the school district. As I mentioned, there are projects that we continually budget for each and every year. That was one of those projects. As most of you are aware, I have been serving as the acting principal at Wall High School, and I can attest that during lunchtime, South Gym is the most populated area with students. As such, that became a priority. It became a priority because we use the room throughout the day, including it being a major hub for lunch. In addition, Dr. Richard Lynch, the industrial hygienist that we have been working with, that was a recommendation to air condition the South Gym. That was the recommendation of the experts that we hire. We follow through and we planned accordingly. And that is how we are chipping away at the projects. There are many, many projects. And as you can see, in this year's operating budget, we budgeted out of capital reserves $2 million. $2 million. The $2 million does not go a long way. The project in South Gym was actually budgeted the year before, but because of the delays in supply chain and labor, it was actually completed this summer. So I want to stress that it's certainly a costly expense. So when you're dealing with capital improvements that are extremely expensive, like an air conditioning system, it is so important for us to try to maximize our dollar, our spending power. That is what we are trying to do through this referendum. We are trying to do right by this community. We are trying to do right by the students. We are trying to do right by the staff. And to do so, we have to provide facilities that will enable them to grow and enable them to nourish. With respect to the specificity regarding what is going to be happening with respect to the bonds and some of the very, very detail-oriented questions that was asked, that is why we're having the presentation on November 1st, so we can provide great detail and have the professionals on hand that can provide extended responses to those that have follow-up questions. With respect to the roof longevity, typically in schools, roofing projects are done in a zone manner. And I'm going to ask Mr. Smythe if you wanted to expand upon really the roofing plan and strategy in the district.
Sure thing. Just to clarify, the age of the roofs in the district, the district has over 500,000 square feet of building area that has a roof on that entire area. The roofs are different sections. They were completed or replaced in various years going back to 2000, so some are 22 years old and some are less than that because we have done other roofing projects 10 to 15 years ago. Not 100% of the roofs in the district are included in the referendum, but there are sections of roof that are included at each of the schools as indicated on the slide. Do we have the actual dollar amount tonight that is dedicated to roofing? The answer to that is no, but additional information on that can be provided as additional presentations are given to the public. To clarify, with regard to the applications to the Department of Ed, The estimates that were provided in determining the dollar amounts of the questions, the professionals, the architects have calculated what the actual cost of those roof replacements, as well as the cost for all the projects that are included in each of the two questions. Also, to clarify with regard to the questions, there are two. One is, I just want to make sure there was no confusion with regard to the dollar amounts. The first question is the $53 million question, which of the $53 million, $18 million of it will be funded through debt service aid from the state. So it's 35 will be paid locally, and the 18 million would be coming from state aid. The second question is $13 million, and with $2 million coming from debt service state aid that the district is eligible for. So it's 53 million and 13 million, and the debt service eligibility is 18 million and 2 million. With regard to the terms of the borrowing, they're 25-year bonds. That's the amortization schedule for the bonds as the ballot questions are designed. And the borrowing rate used to calculate what the tax impact is 4.3% as provided by the district's financial advisor and bond counsel.
Thank you, Mr. Smythe. I would like to stress very much that it is incumbent upon us to make sure that voters are educated. They are educated in the process, they are educated with the projects, they are educated with the financing. It is incumbent upon us to do so, and it is very much a priority. And with that, I would like to once again invite all of you to the November 1st meeting, where we can provide you responses with much greater detail. And I do want to again invite you to our referendum tab on the website, where voters can get information, accurate information on the referendum process, projects, and financing. So thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yes.
If I can add, with respect to accurate information with regard to the referendum, it can't be emphasized enough that when you are looking for information, that you access it from the district's website as opposed to any other sources of information. With regard to the presentation that was provided by Dr. Handerhand, it is available on as an attachment to the agenda tonight. It was added as Dr. Handerhand was providing the agenda, so anyone live streaming from home can, what time was Dr. Handerhand given the presentation? So as I indicated. So it is available with the agenda.
Please stop disrupting the meeting, Ms. Cross.
Okay. Again, the presentation is an attachment to the agenda under the special presentations for future reference. It will also be included on the district's website under the referendum page for future access as well.
And I would like to add, I would like to speak to one more thing. Mr. Smythe, you jogged my memory on something. I initially wanted to provide the referendum update as part of my superintendent's update. But as I was preparing the slides, I felt it worthy of a full presentation. And as such, to give the participants in the meeting the opportunity for a Q&A. So that is why it was changed to the special presentation and taken from the superintendent's report, where we do not have the public Q&A aspect. So thank you.
Mr. Venezia?
Excuse me, is that who I am? I almost forgot who I am. You did a good job of trying to make me forget. I think I'm Carmine Venezia from Wall Township. I'm very impressed about the presentation so far. After all you guys have facts and figures. As Mrs. Cross pointed out before, we don't even have handouts. So we are listening to your presentation, taking it verbatim as you're saying it, not saying that's not. It would appear to me that somewhere along the line, I know we need improvements. All of us need improvements on our homes and the properties that we have. And I don't think that the schools don't not need improvements. However, It seems to me that we're going to piggyback on a bond that we've already retired, and in these hard times that have been foisted upon us by our central government, you would think we'd say, okay, you know what? This bond is going to be paid off that we've been paying off for years. Let's give it a little tax decrease and worry about when the economy gets better to get some capital improvements. Maybe we'll do better with prices. I don't know. All I see is that everybody seems to be very excited. Let's spend more money. And that's great in a normal economy. This is not a normal economy. Also, it would appear to me over the past several years, I've observed closely several different board presidents, and they seem to have one characteristic in very extreme common, and it annoys me. You're rude to people. You're rude to people. If they don't talk the way you want them to talk to them, you want to bark their head off. Ralph, I'm so ashamed of you. When I first came on in this town and talked to you, you were all about transparency, you wanted to be fair. You have no transparency whatsoever, and you've taken to the Brophy, Applegate.
Mr. Venezia, this is questions about
No, I know what the question is about. Well, first of all, you made me stand here for about 20 minutes forgetting what the question was. So I think you owe me a little time,
Well,
okay?
No, there's rules to follow.
You want to try and bully me, Ralph? You want to try and bully me?
I'm not bullying you.
Okay.
It's about the presentation. So if you have questions about the presentation.
I already commented that I think the presentation was very good. But I believe that if we tried to steer it to a way in these tough economic times to giving the taxpayers, we, the people here, pay the bill. You do not. We vote you in so you can guide our bills correctly. All you want to do is spend our money and not give us any input. You want to meet behind closed doors and come out and say, oh, we got this plan. We don't even know about it. From what I understand, this referendum was not put on the agenda in a lawful period of time. Isn't it supposed to be put out about 10 days ahead of time in the newspaper? Mr. Smythe?
No.
Huh?
Specific to your question, no, it's not 10 days. The agenda, as it's known, is to be posted 48 hours before the Board of Education meeting. So the agenda was posted prior to that, and then revisions and adjustments and additions can be included as.
So my question is this on the referendum on the agenda. Was it put out in a lawful manner? In the lawful amount of time that's supposed to be? So the public, the stakeholders, the voters could get a good handle on what it is that you had in mind and come in and study it and comment. Don't forget, you guys got all the figures. We have nothing. We depend upon you to tell them to us, and then you expect us to remember them all as you keep somebody up here ready to go to sleep. That's annoying, Ralph. It really is. That's not a well-run meeting. And I'll comment on some other stuff later on. Thank you.
Is there anybody else for questions or comments on this?
Lisa Adam, Wall Township. After what Mr. Venezia said, so just to be clear, if we decide, if this referendum does not pass, these improvements still need to be done. So we will have to spend tax dollars to do them without state aid. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, it'll cost us, for question one, approximately $18 million more if we try to fund it out of the budget,
Okay,
which
so-
will take years. Please stop yelling out and have respect for the person at the microphone. Please stop yelling out.
But this
please
is my
stop.
time, right? This is my time? Right. Okay, thank you. So, no, I don't. I'm just not rude. That's all. So, to piggyback on Mr. Venezia, if we choose not to do this, like he said, to give the taxpayers a break because there will be debt coming off, we can stay tax neutral by doing it. Do you know approximately what that tax break would be if we didn't? Is that something we can know?
It's approximately $15 a month on the average assessed home. So the tax debt portion of the budget, on the average assessed home right now, it's about $185, I believe, off the top of my head. So it works out to be about $15 a month.
Okay, so that's, in my opinion, that's the kind of thing that, I know that, like we said, you guys have a lot of, I have a lot of this information, you have a lot of this information, but that's something that needs to be really put out there, because $15 a month versus what this could cost us if we don't pass it in the long run could make or break a yes or no vote, in my opinion. So that's just, something that, to stay tax neutral and get this done, or to save $15 and maybe owe money later. I don't know, that's just something that That's all.
Thank you.
Good evening. Gail Marr, 1440 Marconi Road, teacher, WTA president, other things. My concern about not having a referendum is if we normally spend $2 million a year on capital projects, and we have $53 million of need, 2 divided into 53 million, that's a lot of years it would take to do those projects. And we have buildings that are in trouble right now, so it's important to do them now instead of it costing more to do them over the next 26 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Well,
could I comment on that?
Yeah, just really quick, just to be clear too, that the dollar amount of projects that are needed to be done in this district are way greater than what's proposed. What is proposed was to pick out the most crucial things that need to get done ASAP and do it in a way where there would be no tax impact in question 1, and then question 2 would be a modest increase of approximately $5 a month for the average assessed house. So we were, I think when we originally were looking, when they came back with their plan, it was somewhere in the neighborhood, was it 300 million? Was that the number that with everything, if you had an unlimited supply of money?
It was well over 200 million.
200, okay.
230 million.
Okay.
That's my head.
So we have a lot of need in the district, and this has been a conversation that's been going on for, I don't know, maybe 4 years now, at least. We've been talking about different things that need to get done and fixed, and the reason why the time is now is because this debt is set to expire, and that way there's no change in the tax rate. So that's why this is being planned now, and who knows what's going to happen a year, 2 years, 5 years from now. Interest rates could be a lot more, and this $50 million to $53 million might only be $25 million in a couple of years.
So,
I'm sorry, Mr. Hall.
Yeah, I just wanted to address Ms. Marr's comments, because she's exactly right. As a member of the F&F committee, we looked at this and we started with like every little thing that the district could spend money on to fix issues, and we were tasked with bringing it down to a number that would keep the taxes that the people are paying the same, yet we get the benefit of having $53 million worth of improvements. She's correct. If this bond fails, okay, we don't get 53 million and everybody gets a $185 tax break. Okay, that's great, but we still have to do these things to fix the boilers or the roofs or all the things that are in this. And where does that money come from? Well, it's going to come from the annual budget. As Gail said, it's going to take 25 years just to do the items that are on the list. And where's that money going to come from? Well, it's going to be larger class sizes, and it's going to be less teachers, and it's going to be finding money out of the budget other ways. The school district has to do these things. Just they have to do basic things around for the buildings. We can't just not do it. And so, like I said, what will happen is tough decisions will have to be made as far as what programs we run, where are we going to cut to save extra, to squeeze out an extra $500,000, $1 million a year, to now we can spend $3.5 on projects around the district. So instead of our normal 2, to take bigger chunks of this stuff. So again, it's just I want people to be informed that we have a lot of needs in the district, things that we can't put off, and again, we tried to be responsible and not come to you for a $75 or $80 or $100 million referendum to fix a lot of stuff. We said this is the critical stuff we have to fix with the referendum. These other stuff we can kind of keep chipping away at with our annual budget, but this stuff we kind of want to take advantage of the state aid. So I think people need to kind of just step back and think about it as a holistic thing, because like I said, we're going to have to do it, and whether we're going to do it with state aid or not, and then how do we get the money? Like I said, the kids will be the ones that pay the price, because reduced programs, higher class sizes, less teachers, it just, and then you just don't want to be in a district that does that. So thank Mrs. Marr for bringing that up to allow us to talk about it.
Thank you, Mr. Roll. Yes.
And just to piggyback on that, with regard to F&F, in the last 5 years, we've spent more than $10 million, we've budgeted more than $10 million for capital improvements. Had those $10 million of projects been included in a referendum, $4 million of it would have been saved in our annual school budget and would have been funded through debt service aid from the state. So not only the time, but you're passing up 34% of the funding.
Thank you. Mr. Krupa, good evening.
Good evening, everybody. And I thought I knew what I was going to say when I got up here, and it changed. And that is, if you listen to all of the comments that were said tonight, I think that's going to set a very good plan for you in terms of what you need to do. And I don't envy your position to get this referendum to pass. We need this. As one of the few board members that went to every single field, closet, room, ceiling, I can tell you this is needed. I am not exaggerating when I tell you I went every room, every closet. Oh, you don't need to go in there.
Mr.
Yeah,
Krupa, please address the board.
And the reason I did that was because I feel it's important when you're in a service position as you are to know the facts. I feel that you do get those facts from the work that is done by internal and external experts and consultants. We can't deny that our buildings are in need. Our children today, our children of tomorrow, our staff members, our community need this referendum just to keep afloat. What was presented to us there is going to give us comfortable, safe, and sustainable buildings. There's not a lot of flash there, which is disappointing to me. I come from a district where a lot of money was spent because they saw the value in education and in the schools and what it did for their students and their community, present and future. We cannot deny the state of our buildings. We cannot deny the state of our facilities, our grounds, all of that. So I encourage you to do the due diligence in getting this information out there. I did go to workshops, and I have been personally involved in putting referendum support forward. It involves shaking the bushes. It involves going to the senior groups. It involves going to all of the PTAs. You don't have a long time to do this. I'm not wagging my finger. I'm making comment. But we need to do this. Yes, you have the information there, but you got to get the heart, not just the brain and the understanding. You got to get the heart behind this. You have to. It hasn't passed in the past. In the past. We need this. The naysayers, don't listen to them. The people that are talking about frugality and the need to be budget conservative, absolutely. I am a retiree on a limited salary and budget as well right now, working part-time with 2 kids, one of which is a student in this school. So I understand very well what the concerns are, and I think you do too. We have oversight by the state. We have support by the state to get this done. Don't listen to the naysayers. This community needs positivity, not negativity. You also have to get to the community, meaning the council and the mayor. Get them involved with this. We need togetherness on this. So, I thought I knew what I was going to say. I think it came out as it was needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Krupa. Is there anybody else for comments on this presentation? Oh.
Hello, I'm Susan Pace, and I live in Wall Township. I had a question regarding eligibility. You mentioned it a couple of times, Dr. Hanrahan mentioned a couple of times what our buy-in would be, 53 million, and then the state, we were eligible for 18 million. How does that eligibility get determined? And how can we, are we now hanging these estimates on the 34%? And could it possibly be lower? And then what we as a community have to pay becomes more. So I'm a little gray on the eligibility.
Okay, your question's complete, because I can
Yes,
respond.
yes.
Okay. And so with respect to the eligibility, we have been working with the architects, and the architects prepare, after we prioritize the projects, the architects submit plans to the Department of Education for review. And I'm going to ask Mr. Smythe to discuss some of the technical stuff with respect to the approvals for the individual projects.
I didn't want to take up time in your public comment.
I'm done speaking. I really just needed some clarity on how do we know we're going to get that much money? Thank you.
Turn your mic on.
As far as determining eligibility, projects that qualify or that are eligible for debt service aid are those projects that impact the educational space of a school building. So for example, anything within the school itself that is used for educational purpose will qualify, including the mechanical systems, the boilers, et cetera. An example of something that may not qualify would be paving a parking lot, or capital improvements that would be on a non-educational building. So the state would determine that those are not eligible costs and they would not provide funding for those costs. As part of this process and prior to the Board of Education approving what the actual ballot questions will say, the Board of Education needs to receive approval from the Department of Education with that determination of what costs of our referendum are eligible for debt service aid. We are waiting on one determination before we will be in a position to be able to approve those ballot questions. So our professionals, our architects, have submitted all of our projects. The $53 million worth of applications for question 1 and the $13 million as question 2. The Department of Education reviews those applications, which identifies the projects that we're looking to include in our referendum, and they determine whether they're eligible enough. Once they make that determination, they give us a letter. It's called a preliminary eligible cost letter, and it says, for example, you're doing $1 million project. We have determined that 100% of that project, or $1 million, is eligible for debt service aid. The state share will be 34% of that cost. And then the referendum, as an example, is for the $1 million. So that's the question. And then the local share and our tax rate is based on our share. And the debt service aid is based on the state share. So once we receive that determination letter and then the board acts on receiving that and accepts it, then it doesn't change. The only way it would change is, well, it can't change because we can't change the projects that we're looking to include in the referendum. So once we receive one additional letter of determination from the Department of Education, the board will be in a position to approve the actual ballot questions. And the ballot questions identify what projects are to be included. So it'll identify that we're doing the roofing, classroom renovations, HVAC. And then when we submit for as we go through the process of submitting for approval through the Department of Education, once the referendum is successful, it goes through Department of Education review again.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
So just to be clear, because you kind of touched on it, but in regards to eligibility, so if you either get the state funding or you don't get it, it's not like they can say, well, we're going to give you 10%. I think that was kind of, I understood what you're saying, but because I asked the same question a long time ago. It's either you get funded 100%, which is the 34%, or it doesn't qualify at all.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Is there anybody else for questions, comments on the presentation? Seeing none, we will close public comment on the presentation. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Hall? Ms. Stites?
Mr. President, this is just a little bit of a follow-up because I needed quite a bit of education myself, and I don't know if these maybe quick points might help people who are trying to understand, because I had quite a few of the same questions that some of our folks here tonight have had, and then I've also heard them out in kind of in the public, and I'm almost afraid to even try to put this out there because I don't want to misspeak, but I think it's important for people to know that the core of the projects list of what has been looked at has been managed with the long-range facilities plan. These plans have been discussed multiple times at public meetings, probably going on the last year and a half, maybe 2 years at this point. So some of these projects have been discussed in our meetings. F&F has gone through tremendous hours of combing through pages and pages and pages of projects. And I think it's important to understand that, as it's been mentioned, once this list of projects is, kind of finalized on our end, it's then sent to the Department of Education. There's been some question as to why those projects haven't been listed, and I think it's probably important for people to know that we're still waiting to hear the final approval of the Department of Education. It's not that we have a list that's been approved and it's being kept a secret. We haven't gotten it. I don't know if it makes any sense for me to ask, so I'll ask. When did we make that submission so that people recognize we didn't submit it last week? This has been submitted for...
So I'll answer that really quick because this has been an ongoing thing now for quite a while. 10 projects were submitted on May 31st of this year. 3 projects were submitted on June 14th. 2 projects were submitted on June 23rd, and 3 projects were submitted on June 24th. And typically, Mr. Smike, correct me if I'm wrong, the approval range is anywhere from 30 to 90 days. And we're past the 90-day mark. And some of the projects that got submitted later required a lot more detail and work. The initial 10 were things that they were able to, I don't want to say do relatively quick because it was an ongoing process for a while, but they were able to get those out. So I believe we're waiting on one of these later projects.
Okay. And I also wanted to make the comment because I know there's been questions about what will happen when the monies come in. Hopefully this will be a yes vote. I think it's important for people to realize that those funds are accounted separately in something called a Fund 30. But basically, what does that mean? That means that the funds, once they're approved, can only be used on those projects. So I've heard talk, they're going to be diverted potentially to, I've heard all kinds of things. But the fact of the matter is, once those funds are approved, that's what they're going to be used for. They can't be arbitrarily changed to something else. The board can't make that decision. The superintendent doesn't make that decision. The BA doesn't make that decision. Once these projects are approved by the Department of Education and we get those funds, that's what they're used for. They don't go into a slush fund for personnel costs. They don't give people raises. And this is really very, very serious. I hope that our members of the community will come on November 1st. And really, if don't be intimidated. It's a pretty big, this can be very overwhelming. If you're coming from like maybe my background where this is not necessarily your forte, it's important that you understand what this process is. Our students and our staff deserve functional buildings. We need this. This is a basic, and our HVAC will ultimately fail. It happens. Our roofs will ultimately fail. We have got to get our buildings in great condition. It's something that we need, and we're going to be doing it one way or another. So, I understand that this seems like a tremendous project, and it is, but it's worthwhile. And I hope that if you're on the fence, or even if you are maybe against it at this point, you'll at least give the November 1st presentation a chance. And if you have questions, please, no matter how basic they are, feel free to ask them, because hopefully you'll have more confidence in getting this accomplished. Thank you.
Mr. Sanfilippo.
Thank you, Chris. So I'm a person who dreams in colors, not numbers, so I'll kind of approach this from a little bit of a different perspective. I think that maybe Andy might have been kind of alluding to a little bit earlier. And I want to gather my thoughts here so that I'm a little bit more coherent than I usually might be when I speak up here. We are a town where people grow up here, and a lot of people tend to stay here for generations. Ralph and I were at Allenwood a couple years ago, and we were commenting on the fact that, oh, look at the tile in the bathroom. It is literally the same tile that we were here. And guess what? It's probably the same tile that my sister and my brother, who are 13 and 15 years older than me, had. I would wager that there are some grandparents who live in Wall Township that have kids who are going to now Wall Township schools that are looking at the same tile in a bathroom that they used. So I don't want to hijack Tracy's kitchen analogy, but I don't know if anybody's house has tile from the 50s or whatever else, right? If you had your pink tile in the 1980s and you bought your house, that's probably the first thing that you immediately removed, along with the pink carpet and whatever else went along with it, right? So these are things that are very important to your kids, our kids, your grandchildren. You don't pass a referendum, let me just say this too. There's probably a lot of people thought about maybe changing a bathroom or changing a kitchen or doing something like that in their house, and they were thinking about that maybe a year and a half ago, right? And then they got prices on it, and then all of a sudden they didn't do it, and they got prices today. And construction costs are astronomically different than they were a year ago. Nobody can say, with a magic wand that, oh, the construction costs are going to go down. What's the last thing that's gone down in your life in the entire time? Have you ever seen this time period where eggs went down? No, everything stays, right? So this is an opportunity to, get our schools situated. Said, keep the lights on, keep the heat on, those different types of things. HVAC is also about heating. We've been here for 5 years. We've talked about boilers exploding, and like I said, Andy went through all of those, all of the schools, and I was right there along with them and into the bowels of Allenwood and Central, and we're talking about ancient equipment that is there. These are your kids. These are our kids. We don't want them, learning in aging, buildings. The other thing I'll say is that, people come here all the time, say they bought a house. I bought a house because the school districts are great. All the time, over and over and over, right? You talk to people, why'd you come to Wall? Oh, the schools are great, I love it, it's close to the beach, all these different things, right? You hear that over and over and over. Don't blow that for this town, right? This is the referendum. This is our opportunity to keep those people, keep your real estate prices up, because people want to come here for the schools. They want to come here for all of those different things. Those real estate prices are going to be way more than $185 difference in your taxes. Okay? Those are some of the things that, that kind of pop out at me. I don't know if that's right or wrong or what, but it's important. This is a heartfelt issue. This is something that we need for this town and for our kids, and it's vital for our community.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Mr. Wondra.
I would just like to make a comment about the HIVAC projects. This is not a nice thing to do. We were saved by air conditioning during COVID, and we were not done with it. So there's no nice to do things that are on this list. But the HIVAC projects, they have to be done. It's got to be done, or the kids are going to suffer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wondra. Anybody else? Any additional comments? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to Board of Education updates. Please stop yelling out. Please stop yelling out.
Point of order.
Please, yes.
Mr. President.
Yes. Please.
Excuse me, sir, there are additional sections in the meeting for public comment, so we'd ask that you just wait until that. If you'd like to come back to the microphone, there'll be other opportunities. Please stop disrupting the meeting by yelling out, Ms. Cross. Thank you.
This is not public comment time.
Yeah.
It's not public
Control the way I
comment.
can talk or can't talk. That's what I'm talking about.
We're not at public comment right now.
But you guys were making public comments.
We are the board. We are having a discussion.
And you elected yourselves, or did we the people elect you?
You can speak at the next public comment.
And when will that be? Do you have a time for us?
Probably in a few minutes once we move through our agenda.
Okay, you make a way to not have any transparency at all. You've succeeded in doing that. I'm sorry about that, Ralph.
All right. We do not have any Board of Education updates. Committee reports have been posted. Oh, look at that. We are now up to public comment. This is for agenda action items only.
Mr. President.
Yes.
There seems to be some confusion tonight. Can you explain how the agenda works every single time we meet?
Gotta be kidding.
We go through the agenda. I don't know how else to say it. The board has discussions in between on different things, certainly after presentations and certainly after something that is so important as a referendum where we're trying to present information and give context behind it. And now it's time for public comment on agenda action items. And agenda action items are items that we will be voting on this evening. The public comment at the end of the meeting is for any school district issue. But this is for the stuff we will be voting on this evening.
Thank you.
Betsy Cross, I live in Wall Township. I'm looking at your agenda, and you gave a presentation on a referendum update. Then the next section says, public comment on special presentation. It doesn't say, let's do a dog and pony show and go around and beg and grovel for money.
Ms. Cross, this is for agenda items only?
Right. So you stick to the agenda, and I won't have to keep pointing this out.
Please provide your
comments. We don't want to be here till midnight while you keep talking around us.
Thank you.
One thing I did want to comment, I'm going to welcome Mr. Peter Riggi. I wasn't here. I watched it. I listened to it. The only thing I was a little bit surprised about, how we're introducing him before we voted on him. So I don't know if he started already. Did you start already? I just couldn't figure that one out.
Please direct your comments to the chair.
I've been going to meetings a long time. I've never seen anybody introduced before they're voted to be hired. So if you could answer that, I'd appreciate it. And I'd like to know his start date. It wasn't on the agenda. Did he start in September? Did he start October 1st? Is he starting tomorrow? Please let everybody know, because we're paying $650 a day. And I wish him the best of luck, because he is going to need it. I was looking at a couple things on here. I saw you had a settlement agreement for somebody, and I thought, oh, that's the agreement to pay my attorney $41,000. And then it was not on there. And I asked my don't you heard from Wall? Because I don't see you being paid on the agenda. Just want to be sure you're not going to slip in and do a hand carry, because it needs to be on an agenda. It needs to show the case, Cross versus Brian Smythe and the Wall Board of Ed. It needs to show the amount.
Ms. Cross, that's not being voted on this evening.
It's not. Okay, just wanted to get that clear. So next time it should be on the agenda so he can be paid. I did notice Manasquan tuition. Could you tell me what sub-account number 11000-100-561-001? It says tuition to other LEASWI says, because you're transferring over $21,640 from tuition special ed to that account, totaling $65,187. And I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see the kids that it's not working for them in Wall, whether they're special ed or regular ed or whatever, that Wall is paying for them. And I posted this, but I did not, and I sent an email, but I never get replies. I did write you, Ms. Hanrahan, today, and I wrote you, Ralph, but nobody got back to me. So
It's
whatever.
Dr. Hanrahan, Ms. Cross.
Okay. What else? I see a lot of money being transferred for settled contracts. I did write on that. I'm glad to see teachers' contracts were settled, but what we would like is a one-page summary. What happened? What were the changes? Could they be bolded in the last contract? But of course, I did not get that either. I think, you know, everybody wants contracts settled. We just want to know what the terms are without looking at 150 pages and trying to figure it out. So that is something that should be done, and I don't know if Mr. Riggy's school did that when he was the superintendent, but to me it just seems like common sense. I do see that they were talking about legal costs were reviewed in F&F, and it says that when reporting general costs or tallied, insurance company representation is not included as it's calculated through the deductible. Well, you know what? When I pay my deductible at home, I got to count it. It's not free money. So if you have to pay an attorney $20,000 to represent you against a child injured in the trailers, it counts. And you need to count that as legal bills. So if you have a $50,000 deductible and you have 10 claims and you pay 50 grand for each, that's $500,000. You need to count it. And you need to count it and not hide it. Because I went back to try and find that when you got sued in September of 2020. I can't even find it discussed in your attorney bills. So when people got those subpoenas to Jill Antonello and to the district...
Ms. Cross, this is not on the agenda
Well,
this
it's in
evening.
your F&F minutes, so I'm just bringing it up. One thing I do notice is approval of a settlement for a student, and you're paying a tuition cost of $44,373.36. That got added late sometime today, but I'm glad. I'd like to see this. If somebody isn't getting their needs met in Wall Township, you need to pay for them to go somewhere else. So I'm happy these parents fought for their kid and they got it done. What else? I've asked this question. I'd like to know how much extra it's costing for the referendum in December rather than November. Simple question. How much was the fee?
That's not being voted on this evening.
I know. I've asked the question a number of times.
This
So
is for
I'd like-
action items we're voting on this evening.
Right. And can the state say no to the referendum, which I'm hoping is what's going to happen. They're going to say, nope, you're not ready yet. You're waiting till the last minute, sending stuff in June, which it's a no for us. And maybe when Mr. Smythe is gone, then it's something that can be reconsidered. But right now,
Not an action item.
absolutely not.
And information is incorrect.
What's incorrect?
Most of what you assume and that you're repeating at this microphone.
tell me exactly what
particularly
was
with
incorrect.
regard to other people's students, which you've had parents come to this microphone and ask you not to comment on their children. So on the student matters that are confidential.
Who told
the
you
information,
that? Are you
the
looking at
information-
Facebook again?
The information is
Are you
not
taking?
factual.
Are you looking at Facebook again, Mrs. Athena Cornell?
Ms. Cross, your time is
that
up.
how you
Thank
got
you.
my
Ms.
son's
Cross, it was
picture?
at this microphone.
Is that how you
Your
got
time
my
is up,
son's
Ms.
picture?
Cross. Thank you.
Yes, you were.
Is there anybody else for public comment on agenda action items? Seeing none, we will close public comment. Could I have a motion for approval of the executive session minutes of September 20th? The business meeting minutes of September 20th. Could I have a motion on that?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Second. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none. Mr. Smythe, roll call.
Mr. Buffer?
Yes.
Mr. Hall? Yes. Ms. Hodnick?
Yes.
Mr. Mallett?
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
Yes.
Ms. Stites? Mr. Wondrak?
Yes.
Mr. Edney?
Yes. Ask for a motion for approval of the first policy reading for policy 0167, 1230, regulation 2230, 2416, 2416.01, 2466, 2520, regulation 2520, 5130, regulation 5130, 5331, regulation 5331, 5420, regulation 5420, 5466, 5500, regulation 5500, 5550, regulation 5550, 5560, regulation 5560, 5752, 5860, regulation 5860, 8130, 8140, regulation 8140, 8467, regulation 8467, 9140, and regulation 9140. Could I have a motion on that?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Second. Any questions, discussion? Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Ms. Hodnick?
Yes.
Mr. Mallett?
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
Yes.
Ms. Stites?
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak? Yes. Mr. Buffer?
Yes.
Mr. Edney?
Yes. Ask for a motion for approval of the second reading of policy 0143.2, 1511, 2415, 3161, 4161, 5513, regulation 5513, 5517, and 5722. We have a motion on that.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Okay, this time I will open up for public comment on any of these policies and regulations for second reading. Seeing none, we will close public comment. Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Ms. Hodnick?
Yes.
Mr. Mallett?
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
Yes.
Ms. Stites?
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak? Yes. Mr. Buffer?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Edney?
Yes. This time I will ask for a motion for approval of our consent agenda, which encompasses number 13, 14, and 15 on our agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Motion, can we have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry. Oh, a second, Mrs. Stites. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Smythe, roll call, please.
Mr. Mallett?
Yes.
Mr. Sanfilippo?
Yes.
Ms. Stites?
Yes.
Mr. Wondrak?
Yes.
Mr. Buffer?
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes.
Ms. Hodnick?
Yes, with the exception of number 14, letter A, item 5. I'll abstain, not a no.
Thank you. And Mr. Edney?
Yes. Okay. This time I will open up for public comment on any school-related issue. Please come up to the microphone. State your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Kim Nimmo. I would like to share a portion of a letter I recently sent to the elementary and middle school principals, along with the response I received. I'll read the beginning of my letter verbatim and then paraphrase the rest. My name is Kim Nimmo, and I'm a 2005 alumna of the Wall Township School District. My favorite part of being in the school system was participating in the orchestra program. I now hold a bachelor's and master's degrees in music education and am a middle school orchestra director. I am very concerned with the changes that are being made to the elementary and middle school orchestra programs for this school year. In my letter, I then explained some of the experiences I had as an orchestra student from 3rd grade through high school. I also shared that as an 8th grade student, I spoke at a Board of Education meeting about turning the high school orchestra program into a class that meets 5 days a week instead of 2 in order for the program to grow. The board took my suggestion and the size of the orchestra doubled within 2 years. In my letter, I then addressed my concern regarding 2 separate issues in the current Wall Orchestra program. The first issue is that the elementary orchestra students receive small group lessons at their schools, but do not have the ensemble rehearsal experience due to busing issues. The second issue is that due to the new middle school schedule, orchestra students have the ensemble rehearsal experience, but are not receiving small group lessons. At both levels, students in the band are receiving small group lessons and ensemble rehearsals at this current time. In my letter, I asked, why is it acceptable that students in one music ensemble meet for lessons and rehearsals, while another group doesn't? I asked what is being done to remedy the situation for this next school year. This is the response I received. Mrs. Chiesa, thank you for your email. We are so happy to hear of the huge success you have had as a graduate of the Wall Township Public Schools music program. We too agree that lessons provided have been a valuable tool to create strong, meaningful program for our students. You may not be aware, but this year we have implemented a different schedule which is more attuned to meet the needs of our Wall Intermediate School students. The constraint this schedule created has had limited ability to offer those lessons for orchestra and choir this year. We continue to evaluate the options available to us and continue to monitor the implementation of the schedule this year to see what possibilities exist for the return. Thank you for your time. Regards, Jennifer McCann, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. So I have a few follow-up questions. Number 1, if a new middle school schedule was implemented to attune the needs of the students, why is it that certain middle school students' needs are not met within the music program? Number 2, why was it decided that the needs of the band students can be met, but students in orchestra and choir are not met? And number 3, was anybody planning on addressing the fact that elementary orchestra students are not having ensemble rehearsals anymore? I plan on sending a follow-up to Mrs. McCann with the questions I am sharing today, and I encourage others to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. I personally do not have any kind of answer for you because that's a curriculum issue. Ms. McCann or Dr. Handerhan?
Yeah, well, I'm going to just preface this, and I'm going to turn this over to Ms. McCann. We are certainly aware of the issue, and we are certainly aware of really the music program, whether it be band, whether it be orchestra, whether it be chorus. It's one of the it's a shining exemplar of Wall Township schools from arguably pre-K through 12th grade. So we do value it. We understand that it is valued in the community. There were systemic schedule changes, as you mentioned, in the intermediate school specifically. I'm more attuned to than the specific elementary school scheduling. But they were done to create the best possible environment for all students. And we're working through and trying to accommodate all the needs of the students. At this point, I'm going to ask Ms. McCann to chime in, and I'm sure there'll be follow-up discussions as well.
Yes. So thank you for your eloquent feedback this evening. So Mr. Estradios, the supervisor of music, art, and world language and ESL, myself and Mr. Laughlin have had multiple conversations on how we could meet the needs of all of those subgroups, the choir, the orchestra, and the band. Similar to what I wrote in your response, we continue to look within the master schedule as to how we can do that. We felt as though at the time in selecting the band versus those other 2 categories, that the band had a much larger group with much more need in terms of the different types of instruments and lessons that are needed to perfect that type of group ensemble versus the others, and we felt as though we could continue to meet their needs in other manners. But to your point, we have received over the summer a couple of inquiries as well as yours, but the conversations continue It's just with the way in which we've implemented this new scheduling at the middle school that we haven't been able to provide those other services to those students. It's not as though we're not going to continue next school year or throughout this school year to look at other ways to do it, but we can continue those conversations in a different manner. It's not off the table. We want to be able to. We just haven't been able to.
Well, and from my personal experience, I know I had to fight for the orchestra program as a student. Those orchestra students have so much potential. I have so many friends from Wall Township that are orchestra directors. So to say that the band is in more need versus another ensemble, and I'm not trying to discredit the band at all. I want to make sure I put that out there. Just to think that it's okay to focus on one ensemble versus the other, it's so disheartening. We all deserve, and by we I mean all music students really deserve the chance for every opportunity that one ensemble is being offered, so please reconsider. And I'm open to help with discussions as well.
Thank you.
Thank
Send
you.
me those questions and we can have further conversation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment? Anybody else?
Now, let me get this straight before I get chastised. I'm allowed to comment on anything from the public? Is that what we're
Any
saying?
school-related issue?
Any school-related issue?
Yes.
Okay, how about can I comment on something that I heard that I think I need clarification because it hasn't been brought up this evening? I heard that our superintendent of schools will be seeking a renewal of her contract. Is that correct? Ms. Hanrahan?
Mr. President, can you clarify what the public comment is?
It's time for public comment. If you have questions, we'll write them down. If we can answer them, we
That's not
will.
a public comment?
Well,
Who's it a question for? People in the closet?
It's public comment. So ask your questions and whatever
Okay,
comments you
my
have, we'll
question
write them down.
Is Mrs. Hanrahan seeking a renewal of her current contract?
Do you have any other questions?
Yes, I would like to know if she is, why?
Is that your final question?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, we have advertised with respect to my contract. I am looking to renew a contract that is offered by the Board of Education, and there will be further discussions as advertised. This is certainly an opportunity to bring up the contract, so I appreciate that. This would be the appropriate venue. And as far as why, I get that question a lot, why I would want to renew. And the reason why is because I care about this district, I care about the students, and I care about the staff. And my goal, while I'm in Wall Township Public Schools, is to do my very best to create a school district that every single person is incredibly proud of, and every single person is excited to come to every day. So that is the reason, and that is why I get out of bed, and that is why I wish to continue my employment in Wall Township.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your answer.
Andy Krupa, Wall Township. Positivity, right? I just wanted to compliment you on the last meeting, because I think at that meeting it's when you presented what your plan and outline was for helping the public and informing the community about the health education curriculum changes, and then you implemented. And I'm a data guy. I love to see data supporting what you're saying. And so kudos to you, because it did happen. You had the meetings. It was very organized. Your presentation at that meeting was organized, and I think it set up for a good illumination, if you will, of what took place. And I think something like that, if it could be the model for the board and the professionals in the employ to continue periodically through the year, like for music as an example, it's a great way to build the community's support and trust. We haven't been able to do that, obviously, because of the COVID and all that kind of stuff, but you started, keep the ball rolling. The other thing that I want to compliment you on, and I think some of this is because it's stuff that was going on when I was sitting on the board, and it's just kind of been crickets and silence for me, and I didn't want to just leave you hanging like that because I know so many of you, and because I care about this community as well. But the website and the communication, phenomenal. I mean, it's taken us time, but it really makes a huge difference to me personally. Again, hard data. When I'm looking at it, I can figure out what the heck it is that I'm looking at, where I need to go. If there's something missing, it says to be announced or built, and your social media has really been linked in with it as well. So kudos to everybody there as well. With regards to understanding of the board and what its actions are, I have here the FAQs on how to become a school board member, which I printed right off of the NJSBA website, which is the New Jersey School Board Association, because I think you know, it's a good service to do. If there's people that are interested, this is where they need to look so that they understand what it is that you do, what it entails, and what the limitations are. Because it's not something as easy as it appears to be in terms of answering questions related to confidential matters as a point of example. But also, it's a board meeting, it's a meeting of the board. And so the things that are going on behind the scenes can only be illuminated through those first two things I just spoke about. And I don't think in terms of my earlier comments to the referendum, I was as specific as I really would like to be, and that is that I think you need to go out. You have to go out and talk to the people. Yes, the numbers are there. Come to November 1st, but you have to go out. You have to talk to the people. And with the strategic planning having been delayed as it was for so long, again, due to COVID and other things, that's one of the things that would have helped you in terms of attaching why we're doing what we're doing, in terms of the building, in terms of this improvement. You just haven't had that time. Everybody has to understand that it's missing. So we're going to do the best that we can together. And as I said before, go out to the community, get the town council, seniors, all of them. You have to have those meetings. You can't just say, well, we hope you look at the numbers and this and that. And there, I'm not wagging my finger. I'm just giving you some suggestions because there's workshops that I've been to, there's experience that I've had, and there's other people that could speak to this better than I could. So I just wanted to stay on the positive tack. If anybody's interested in running for the board or understanding more, it's right there. One thing that is very interesting is that it says time commitment. You can expect to spend 11 to 50 hours. That's quite a spread, right? It literally says that right here from the New Jersey School Boards Association in terms of 11 to 50 hours a month on board duties. So if you go with a conservative number like 20, it's 240 hours a year because there's no vacation month. I just had to say that. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Betsy Cross, I live in Wall Township. Just wanted to go over, I know you know my lawsuit has been settled, and this is the order that was given. This matter has been opened by the court by Walter Lors of the firm Cohen, Liffman, Perlman, Herman, counsel for plaintiff Betsy Cross and the defendants Wall Township Board of Education and Brian J. Smythe in his official capacity as business administrator, board secretary, and records custodian of Wall Township Board of Education, represented by Scarillo, Cornell, who's Athena Cornell sitting up here, Molina, McKeever, who's the one who used my son's picture 4 times in his reply brief of September 17th, 2021. Whereas on August 3rd, the court issued written finding and facts and conclusions and ordered the parties to confer regarding the issue of counsel fees. This dragged on way too long. If you had settled this back in September, I would have been sitting on the board. But you didn't, and you dragged it on so I couldn't sit on the board. So that's a fact, and anybody on Facebook can search Allison Connolly, and she gave a whole post on it, and I've saved it in case she deletes it now, but I couldn't sit on the board. It says, you are ordered, it's ordered, that the defendant Wall Township Board of Education shall pay or cause to be paid to Cohen, Liffman, Perlman, which is my attorney's firm, $41,442.75. And this isn't the first time that this happened with Mr. Smythe. So what we now need to have returned back is another $115,000 for the investigative report that was not signed, wasn't on business letterhead by Mr. Scarillo. And I just want to read something. I got to get this back on. Mr. Scarillo was supposed to, I need my glasses. I don't even think I can read it now. Mr. Scarillo mentioned that he was going to put his name on this report. His firm was going to back it. And he goes on, and I posted that on Facebook today, and it was a complete lie. You got sued by somebody injured in the trailers, and now you're doing everything to not pay. And the information that we have, and some new information, is very, very damaging. And it's going to go to the Co-Star, it's going to go to CBS News, and it should keep Brian Smythe up at night, because it is not going to be good for this district. And it's not going to be good for the Board of Ed members that were on here. So I think just Russell Gartz was one. Oh, I guess Andy Krupa was another one that was on the board at the time. But it's not going to be good. So until we get to the truth of the matter, we'll keep coming back. And Kathleen Duran couldn't make it tonight because she had surgery. And she's doing better, but she just couldn't make it here. So we'll keep plugging away. And we're going to get to the truth. And now you need to go back to the attorney, Mr. Hall, Mr. Adonisio, and ask them to return the money for the investigative report that wasn't on business letterhead, wasn't signed, and didn't have their firm name in it. Because we don't get to pay for stuff like that. Just think, if you had that $115,000 now, what you could actually do for the kids. Because this nonsense we saw tonight of putting up a referendum and then going around the room and talking for 20 minutes each is not what we signed up for tonight. We were supposed to see the presentation, have our questions. You had no backup. You had no details. I'd like to know what you've paid the PR firm. I'd like to know how much the architect's been paid. There are so many questions we need answered. But a referendum in Wall right now needs to be put on hold. All the documents Brian Smythe has need to be put together. All of the interview material that Mr. Scarillo has and Athena Cornell's firm and Dennis McKeever needs to be boxed up and given to a state agency. And that's what needs to happen, because once that first lawsuit hit, and the problems with insurance you may have right now are huge, because nobody wants to pay claims that they shouldn't be paying. And if Mr. Smythe Me going over these bills, I saw a lot of problems. And Mr. Smythe is redacting his own name, or Athena Cornell's doing it, I don't know who.
Thank you, Ms.
But,
Cross. Your time is up.
You should be very concerned
Your time
and
is up.
probably
Thank
not
you.
sleeping tonight.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And you are right. $41,000 could buy a lot of computers. Is there anybody else for a public comment? Seeing none, we will close public comment. Any board members, any comments? Any board members have any comments? Ms.
Yes,
White?
I'd like to make a comment about that report. That report went on for 2.5 hours out to the public. 2.5 hours. It could have been done in 45 minutes. But Mr. Skrillo made it conversational, so he could talk to the people. They could ask him questions and do exactly what they pushed for. And I sat back there, and I watched that citizen and another one laugh, giggle, and jerk around through this whole last thing. So for 2.5 hours, sitting out there with the public. So I wasn't alone. There were so many other people that saw it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Just for purposes of clarification on the trailer report, that investigation began in September 15th of 2020. It concluded with a public presentation at the July 13th, 2021 board meeting. Over 70 people were invited for interviews. 42 submitted an interview. Over 8,000 pages of documents were reviewed, as well as countless hours of video footage. The report is 27 pages, single-spaced, with over 900 associated pages of documents in support of the conclusions. Please don't call out. You've had your time. Thank you.
Please stop yelling out. Please stop yelling out. And the board had a public presentation on it, and the board accepted it, and it's now part of district records. Mr. Buffa, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a final update on the Powder Puff score. Seniors, 14-7. So, good job, seniors.
All right. All right.
Happy Halloween to everybody.
Yes.
Yep. Just two more points of clarification. There's nothing that would preclude a candidate from sitting on the board with a pending Oprah litigation. That case law is very clear. With regard to the use, please stop interrupting.
Please
stop interrupting. Thank you. So with regard to your son's picture, as you've mentioned many times at this public forum, your son's picture was your profile picture that was posted online for a very long period of time. During the litigation, you took the unprecedented step of providing the virtual link to the hearing to the public without giving the court sufficient notice. That virtual link that you provided to the public without sufficient notice to the court had attached your son's picture, as you've mentioned many times in this public forum. And therefore, it was actually you who put the picture into the public domain. And again, we're not interrupting, Ms. Cross. You've had your time. Thank you. With regard to student matters relating to Manasquan tuition, that was an issue that was also raised earlier today. There are certain times where the law requires that a public school district pay for tuition in certain circumstances, particularly when there are children whose education needs to be stabilized because they are going through particularly difficult times. So that is the context of that without disclosing any confidential student information.
Okay. Seeing nothing else, could we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second? What? You second? All in favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? All right. Thank you. Have a good night.